Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jack's Reading Corner, and I thought I would go ahead and do my review on Amy Tan's The Kitchen God's Wife. It's been a long time since I've done a review. I didn't do a review on the last few books I finished up this month, so I thought I would do a review on this one. So it's the second Amy Tan book I have read. The first one was The Dry Luck Club. Finally got around to this, and I figured I needed it. It was about time I read it because it's my sister's copy, and I've had it for quite a few years now, and I need to give it back to her, so finally got around to it. Like The Dry Luck Club, this is about mothers and daughters, particularly one set of a mother and a daughter, not multiples like in The Dry Luck Club. So our mother and daughter are Winnie and Pearl. And and both Pearl and Winnie have kept some secrets from each other. Pearl has MS and is afraid to tell her mother because she knows her mother is going to blow out of proportion and be over the top worrying about it and trying to fix it, trying to cure it. And she just wants to, and Pearl just wants to live her life and deal with it. She doesn't want to, be dwelling on it and trying to fix it or trying to cure it. While Winnie's secret is that, first of all, Pearl's father, the man that Pearl sees as her father, Jimmy Louie, he is her father in the emotional sense, but he's not her biological father. Winnie's first husband is Pearl's biological father, and he was basically an asshole with the temper of a 5-year-old. And also, Winnie has not spoken about her past, not just about this marriage to her first husband, Wen Fu, but also about her experience during the war. Because that's kind of, in the book she says that the war started, World War II kind of started in China. So this is set in the 1938 or 39, and Winnie was only 18 when 17 when she first met Wen Fu, and 18 when she married him. And like I said, he was a complete asshole. He was, again, had the temper of a child. And on top of having to deal with this scary, temperamental man as her husband, it was during a time of war when there was all this bombings from the Japanese. And so it was a very scary time for Winnie, and she barely survived it. But there were a few moments of peace and light in her life, like Helen, or Hulan. And I think Winnie's name, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I think it's pronounced Wei Wei. But she gets an Americanized name later, and so does Hulan. And Hulan is her only friend, and even then, Hulan is not the greatest friend in the world. She can be very mean to Winnie, and very selfish, and lives in her own little world, to the where she won't believe you if you tell her something is a certain way. If you tell her the sky is blue, she might say it's green. She's determined to believe things are the way she sees them, not the way they really are. And Winnie just gets very frustrated with her, but my belief is that she stays friends with her because Winnie has not had a lot of love and affection in her life. Her father barely showed any affection towards her. He didn't show any at all, in fact. And her mom, her mom was the only one who really showed her any love as a child, and she essentially left her, ran out on her. And she did get a little love from her father's other 2 wives and her cousin, Peanut, but even Peanut was very selfish. In fact, when I was reading it, I felt like Peanut and Helen, I'm just going to call them by their Americanized names, are kind of similar in their selfishness. And I also, I kept reading it because it was a good book. It's a sad book, and I kept reading it because I wanted to see Winnie make out of this alive. Although, I do feel like because this is Winnie telling the story, so we know that things are going to turn out okay for her. We know that from the beginning. I mean, it's not a big spoiler. It's only a spoiler if you haven't started reading the book yet. But we know she's okay, that she survives this and ends up in a better situation than what she was in. She has Pearl, and then there's her son, and then she's married to a good man who is a minister in San Francisco. So we know that everything turns out okay for her. So it almost takes away some of the fear and some of the anxiety you would feel for this character, because you know in the end she's going to be okay. But I also was thinking that that's not what the story's about. It's not about if she's going to make it out alive. It's about just her journey, how she gets through this, how it makes her both, as she puts it, weak and strong. Like, she can't actually fight back. She doesn't fight back and can't run away from him because, you know, at one point he threatens to take away the second or third baby that she had that actually survived. Because sadly she has a lot of kids, but not all of them survive past birth, and some of them, and the only two that actually to survive past birth, I'm not counting Pearl, like barely made it to like 10 years old. It's a very depressing story, but it's a good story, and you learn about Chinese culture, of course. And it's really sad because I don't know if this is just Chinese culture or Asian culture altogether, because my family, my grandmother's Filipino, and even then there is a little bit of favoritism towards my uncle, my mom's older brother. And I think that's how it is in China, and like I said, I don't know if it's that way in other Asian cultures, but where the men are favored over the women. And I think that's part of why Winnie struggled. It took her so long to escape this marriage. She had no choice. She had to stay, and no one was going to help her. And, like, no one cared, and they were like, I mean, even Helen herself was so scared of this man because of his temper and how violent. He's like I said, he has the temper of a 5-year-old, but the power of an adult male. As in, he can be very violent, but he gets really upset like a child would if things don't go his way or if he can't control them. Like, there is one point where their daughter, her first child, that Yuku, their daughter gets really sick. She gets, I think, diarrhea actually from all the food they ate the night before, and she tries to tell her husband, who's playing poker with his buddies, including the doctor, and she tries to tell her husband and the doctor's about ready to leave to take care of this, and the guy, Wen Fu, is like, oh, my wife's just exaggerating, you know, she's like, sit down, we're continuing our game. And the doctor is too afraid to object to him and to be like, no, I'm not listening, your wife says your child is sick, so I'm gonna check. He was too scared to do that. And then finally, she tries to take care of Yuku on her own, but then finally brings Yuku to where his poker game and is like, see? I told you, our daughter is really sick. She needs the doctor. And he gets all mad at her and is like, why didn't you tell me this? How dare you not tell me this? And no one contradicted him. No one was like, she did tell you, you moron. Of course, they won't say moron, but you know what I mean. No one told him, and no one is afraid. And like I said, even Helen was afraid. Like, at one point, he loses his temper and forces her to stay, and is like, and she really upsets him for some. I don't know if this was. I don't know if I'm thinking of the time when she first met her second husband, the guy who becomes her second husband when she first meets him, Pearl's father, Jimmy. He, like, Wen Fu loses his temper, and he's like, you need to ask her to give us. I want you to get down on your knees and beg for my forgiveness. And she wasn't going to do it, but Helen was like, no, please do this, please. And I think Helen is not only scared, but I think she also cares about her friend and knows that if he loses his temper, her friend will get hurt in more ways than one. So I think that's the other reason that Helen stands up and, tells her, you need to ask for this guy's forgiveness. You need to beg for forgiveness, because men have a lot of power. No woman can object. And you just pray that you have a good husband who's kind and treats you respectfully and as an equal, and not just as something beautiful on his arm. But Helen and then Helen's aunt, Auntie Doo, end up being the ones that rescue her in the end. And another incident that really pissed me off is basically, I don't know if it was the same. I think it was because she had danced with Jimmy, and this was before she fell in love with him, and they tried to run away together. Of course, Jimmy Lou just asked her to dance. I mean, this is before she even loved. We, of course, know that she does not love Jimmy Louie, not yet. So this is just them dancing and being friendly towards each other. And right away, Winfield gets all insecure, which is interesting because why are you so insecure unless there's something to be insecure about? And he was like, he gets so mad and threatens. It's like, fine, if you want to be a whore, he basically calls her a whore, and if you want, then divorce. I'll give you a divorce. Because earlier, another point when she tried to divorce him, he's like, no, I'm not divorcing you. I'm not going to divorce you because you asked for it. You will only get a divorce if I ask for it. So finally he does, and he has her write a quick paper, and he signs it. And he's like, oh no, actually this is the time when he said, if only I give you the divorce. I think I'm getting the events mixed up. But either way, he gives her the paper, makes her sign it, and then essentially tears it up because he's like, I'm not giving you a divorce. Or like, you're stuck. You can leave when I say you leave. So, something along those lines. Like, I'm getting my events mixed up because he does so many things that makes me want to hit him, cut off his balls, because he is a bastard and he doesn't deserve to have the part that makes him a man. And unfortunately, he's very spoiled by his mother. He was spoiled by his mother, and that's why he thinks he can have a temper tantrum to get what he wants. And it was just, and I just, like I said, I kept reading just to see her escape. It's such a beautiful story, but also very sad. If you don't want to read a sad story, then, I wouldn't recommend this because it's very heartbreaking. But it does end on a good note because, of course, like I said in the beginning, she's narrating this to her daughter, so we know that everything's going to be okay, that she's going to be in a good place. And the writing, now, I don't know, I don't remember if I noticed this in Amy Tan's other book, but in the Joy Luck Club, but I was noticing it because my sister had marked in pencil, marked it up where there's all these metaphors and similes. That's what Amy Tan's writing is, very beautiful, and she uses like a lot of, like I said, metaphors and similes. She compares things to food, and to describe it, and like to animals, and I think that's a lot of Asian cultures are like that. They compare things to food and to animals and nature. I think those are important metaphors and similes in literature like I said, in Asian cultures. I'll have to ask my friend about that, because Terry herself actually does read and watch a lot of Asian dramas. I don't know, maybe she might watch more Asian dramas than read them. I don't know. I mean, I know she's a fan of Lisa C, who I did a book haul. I did a little book, a mini book haul where I showed those. Actually, I think it was a reading update where I showed you I got like 4 books by Lisa C from a friend of my dad's. And Terry told me that she's read her before, and she said her and Amy Tan seem very similar, so I'm wondering their writing style is very similar. And maybe that's just in Asian cultures, maybe that's how they write. Like very poetically and very using metaphorically, but I gave this 4 stars. It wasn't it didn't wow me. It didn't like it was very good, but it wasn't mind blowing or anything like that. But it was just a very like Amy Tan. I'm really liking her in her writing, and I'm gonna read The Bone Setter's Daughter. That's the next one I actually have a copy of, and then I think what I'm gonna do is probably give it to Jessie when I'm done reading it, and like send it to her. I should read it soon, but I probably won't. I'll say that I'll read it right before she comes in November because they'll come. It's Thanksgiving here this time. But I probably will never get around to it before then. And then I also gotta read my brother-in-law's copy of John Adams by David McCullough. I've had that for a little bit longer than I've had her two Amy Tan books. So now I can actually finally give it back to her. I am very happy I can do that now. But it's not a long read. I mean, it's not like, it's at least 500, it's over 500 pages, like 532 pages, so it's still a chunky book, and I could have read it for Tome Topple, because it's over 500 pages, but, it did not feel that long. I mean, I still feel like it got through quickly. But I did try this new technique where, like, I dog-ear some of the pages I want to read up to. Although that's a sin against literature, but I don't see any harm in dog-earing books. If you want to do that, go for it. So I did that to mark where I want to read up to, and that really helped. So I guess that's really all I gotta say. Like I said, I don't have any criticism really, except for, well, like I said, the only thing is that I didn't like, other than sorry, I'm like stumbling here on my words. So, like I said, we kind of knew that things were gonna work out okay for Winnie. So that was one negative, is that the fact there was no, like, tension, no anxiety for her character. I mean, there was anxiety a little bit, but you knew she was going to be okay. And the only other thing is, the other thing I can think of to criticize is that, and my criticisms are more personal preference. The book, like, the beginning was Pearl's point of view, and then there was a section at the end that was also from Pearl's point of view, but the very last chapter, I think, was from Winnie's perspective, when she's talking to Helen. But most of the book is told through Winnie's eyes, which, yeah, it's her story in the end, but part of me kind of didn't want to hear Pearl's reactions, and the only thing we got is, like, Winnie reacting to something that Pearl said, or a reaction to Pearl's reaction, but we never got actually Pearl saying something. We just got Winnie's response to what Pearl was probably saying. Again, that's another one that, like, I'm sure Amy Tan would probably tell me that it would take you out of Winnie's story if we got Pearl's responses. We actually, like, got the responses. And maybe it would, and she didn't want us to take us out of that story by including what Pearl was saying. We just have it where Winnie responds to what she's saying. But it's kind of funny. I don't know if maybe because I've been around a lot of Asian people that even if they can speak in English, they still have their accents. Like my grandma, she never really lost her Filipino accent because my grandfather was not a very talkative person, not super social. He was very quiet. So my grandma never really dropped her Filipino accent, so she speaks kind of in broken English. I mean, not kind of, she does. And it's kind of funny that the Chinese accent, which is heavily influenced, that Filipino accent is heavily influenced by, like, the Filipino culture, I can hear the Chinese accent in my head. It's the only one I can actually hear in my head whenever I'm reading something that's, where it takes place in China. Like, I actually, both times I read this, when I read this one and the Joy Luck Club, I could hear the Winnie speaking as an old lady with that broken English way. So I just kind of find that a little, like, it's the only accent I could actually hear. Like, Scottish accents, I have to actually listen to it out loud, not just in my head. I have to hear it a lot, and then see the words like Kene. I'm trying to think. So there are other words that they say that they speak a different way than people who speak English. Right? English, not as in, like, Americanized English, I should say, to clarify, because I was just talking about Scottish, and Scottish is technically English. Okay, so anyway, like I said, it's really good. I mean, it's a sad book, but it's a good story. And like I said, I'm gonna read The Bone Senner's Daughter next at some point. I don't know when. I mean, like I said, I should try to read it before November, but I don't know if that will happen. So those are my thoughts on the Kitchen God's Wife. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't, and I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you later. Alright, bye!